The original Game Boy sucks ass. This thing took 4 goddamn batteries, didn't showcase when it was going to die, the screen was puke and baby diarrhea green, you couldn't see shit in the dark, but it was pretty fun. Some timeless games were developed for the original Game Boy. Pokemon Red and Blue, Super Mario Land 2, Link's Awakening, just to name a few. And while some total bullshit was put on the Game Boy like Felix the Cat, we also got arguably the best version of one of the best games of all time. Tetris. All original Game Boys even came bundled with Tetris, and with a game so captivating, it's hard not to attribute a lot of the Game Boy's early success to the block stacking puzzle game we know today. Welcome class to VG 101. I'm your host, the VG Professor. Today, we're traveling from Russia with fun to take a look at one of the most played games ever in the history of gaming. The one, the only, Tetris. Developed originally for the Russian Electronica 60 computer, Tetris was created by Alexei Pajitnov. He took a liking to developing puzzle games specifically because he was interested in the way people think. He was once quoted to say, "Games allow people to get to know each other better and act as revealers of things you might not normally notice, such as their way of thinking." In Tetris' case, he was trying to recreate a puzzle game from his childhood, which used pentominoes, shapes using 5 pieces, but thought that would be too complex, so he scaled it back to shapes using 4 pieces, tetrominoes. Tetrominoes, Tetris, you see where the name makes sense. By 1984, Tetris was developed and playable on the Electronica 60, but the computer had no graphical interface. The game was shown with spaces and brackets. There was no score, no levels, and no music. But even in this incredibly early development, Tetris was still as addictive for Pajitnov's colleagues as it is for people who play today. For those who somehow don't know how the game is played, it's easy to pick up yet difficult to master. There are 7 different tetraminos, which all fit together in different ways. You can rotate the tetraminos to make them fit where they otherwise wouldn't, and when you fill an entire line, that line will disappear. For the future variations of Tetris, the more lines you clear, the faster the blocks fall down. It's also worth mentioning that when you clear more lines at once, you get more points. In order to get the most points, clear 4 lines at once. This is also called a Tetris. As Tetris gained popularity and became more readily available on more widely distributed pieces of hardware, it began to get its license acquired by various companies. The most important in my opinion being the acquisition for distribution by Nintendo. Most people associate Tetris with the Game Boy. I mean, come on, that was my whole opening of this lecture. But it actually debuted first for Nintendo on the Famicom and subsequently the NES. That's what we'll be covering next. Tetris for the NES isn't remembered as fondly as Tetris for the Game Boy, at least among the general public, but for the hardcore community, NES Tetris is one of the pillars for many reasons. Let's start with the original A-type game. Like I described earlier, blocks are falling, make the blocks fit, fill a line to clear it, tetraminos fall faster the more lines you clear. Also, a cool detail is that the tetraminos change color with each level you complete. It's so basic, yet so captivating. Addicting. Honestly, I could play this game 30 times over. Not a complaint, just an observation, but the Tetris music we've all come to recognize, you know, the do 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 do. It's not in this game. That actually debuted with the Game Boy version, while this version has 2 original compositions and an 8-bit rendition of Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. There's also B-type, which has you clear a set amount of lines. You get to select your level as well as how high the blocks start. A height set at 0 will be a clear matrix, but a height set at 5 will have tetraminos stacked randomly almost to the top. Stages are typically referred to by their level, then height, so 0, 0, 2, 1, 3, 4, etc. You'd think by this logic the hardest stage available would be 9, 5, and while that is a total bitch and I can't complete it, there are several much harder stages. By going over a number, holding A and hitting start, you can add 10 more levels to your Tetris speed. So yes, stages 10-0 all the way to 19-5 do in fact exist. I wouldn't recommend trying it though, as the speed is so great that Tetris professionals have only recently been able to beat 19-5. What? For those who complete various stages, there are end screens that have cool things like blimps, or penguins, or even Nintendo characters cheering on your achievement. There's no extra end screen after the 9 levels, so don't feel like you're missing out by not pursuing the realm of the professionals. Now for the one you've all been waiting for, motherfucking Game Boy Tetris!
I could literally never get tired of that.
The game has A-Type and B-Type again, and it's basically the same game besides some detail things. The most obvious is the soundtrack, but if you look closely at the Tetraminos, it looks like there's some tactile detail to them. I guess that's what you have to work with when everything's the same shade of barf green. As far as I can tell, there's no difference besides cosmetic stuff for A-Type when comparing the Game Boy and the NES version. Moving on to B-Type. The first thing I've noticed is the button sequence to get the extra speed levels is not in this game. Yep, you can only go up to 9.5 on this one, but I'm not exactly upset about that. To hell with those extra levels, actually. There also isn't an end screen for 00 through 8.5, only 9.0 and up have end screens. It's similar to the NES end screen, just with generic characters instead of Nintendo licensed characters.
Well, there you have it. That's the Tetris that we all know and love. Sure, there were other games that came in the series, but honestly, who'd even want me to review... What the hell? Where am I? Oh my god, who brought me here? I did. Okay, first off, how'd you get me with my entire couch in here? Like, seriously, that thing was a bitch to get into my room. Nice to meet you too, dickhead. The name's Ilya. Ilya Tetrislav. What do you want from me? You disrespected my favorite game. You said that all Tetris games were the same. Well, you're wrong. You are going to point out every single difference as I make you play all the Tetris games that I have. And if you refuse, or you disrespect my games, you will experience the full fury of Tetris! Alright. I'll play your game, or games, I guess. There were a couple of sequels that were pretty different, but kept the tris suffix. There goes nothing.
First off, we have Weltris, and what's up with the figure skaters? I have no idea how this corresponds to the name. Maybe they're a couple that always talked about learning how to ice skate, until one day they went to the edge of their village to get water, tripped over a Tetramino, and fell to the bottom of the well together. As they begin to starve and lose all hope, the man tells his wife that if they ever get out of there, he'll spend more time tending to her interests and finally put on those skates. Just as their bodies are about to give out, Tetraminos fall from the sky, allowing them to climb up block by block and limp their way to safety. Once they get home, before the man does anything else, he signs him and his wife up for ice skating lessons and vows to become the greatest figure skating partner that his wife could ever ask for. This near-death experience changes him, and changes him for the better.
There. Happy Pajitnov, happy Ilya. I made it make fucking sense.
Okay, enough bullshit, let's play the game. The blocks are falling from the four sides, giving a 3D perspective to the well in which they are falling. It's similar to Tetris in that you need to create lines with the blocks to make them disappear, and if you can't get the block to fit at the bottom of the well and it stands up on the sides will turn red. If all sides turn red, that's when the game is over. On different levels, we also see different types of blocks, some with more overall pieces and some with less. The game is a lot more challenging than it looks, and a lot less fun than it looks. Can't really say I'm enjoying this one, but luckily, there are more Tris games to try. Hatris is another Tetris sequel which takes place in a hat factory where the goal is to stack multiple of the same types of hats onto the customer's head. This one is honestly more fun and a good puzzle game addition to the series. It's nothing like Tetris, but it was also developed by Pajitnov. To top it off, the soundtrack is pretty catchy, but not as catchy as the original Tetris theme. After clearing a certain amount of hats, the stage will move on to another customer. And for good reason, because why does Chuck Norris over here need so many fucking hats? What is this cast of characters that are so desperate for hats that they just sit outside of a hat factory? Is that Frankenstein's monster? Is that Hitler? Wait, no, that's definitely Chaplin. Easy mistake to make. There are 60 stages in total that get more and more intense as different variations of hats get introduced. Overall, this one's not bad. Now we move on to Faces. Tris 3. The 4th installment in the series. Okay, so the name of the game, literally speaking, is to create faces with the different pieces that fall. While you would think you're supposed to make each face look like the pieces came from the same person, you can just make random faces as long as the order of the pieces still matches up. My only problem is I don't think I can swap the pieces like you can in Tetris, and it causes me to screw up so much more than I otherwise would. The higher the level you reach, the more characters you can make based on the pieces that fall. It seems that you can work with as little as 4 characters and as many as 60. Just think of the abominations you can make out of 60 different people's chin, lips, nose, eyes, and forehead. Speaking of abominations, this game is one. I'm already sick of it. There! I played the Tetris sequels! Will you let me go now?
You have played but a fraction of what I have in store for you. First you played the real sequels, and now you will play the fake sequels.
How can there be a fake sequel to a game? You make no sense, and I'm not playing shit.
Oh, but you will. Once all 7 Tetraminos appear, I will make them and you vanish. If you don't want that to happen, you'll keep playing my games. Understand?
You're a sick man, Ilya. But I'll comply for now. Just don't hit me again. Now we're playing Super Tetris, and my initial thought is, what's up with the rats? No, seriously, first figure skaters and now rats? What does any of this have to do with Tetris? Anyway, the game is Tetris, with some minor tweaks and introduction of different pieces. For starters, there seems to be a set amount of pieces you have to work with, but clearing lines adds more pieces to that number. On top of the Tetraminos, bombs also drop, which will clear anything in their path. It's pretty convenient to use them to knock out a piece you didn't mean to drop, or clear the way to make your next Tetramino fit perfectly. When you clear enough lines, the matrix turns into a picture, showing you that you've beaten the level. The game is Tetris with bombs. Not necessarily super, but hey, the bombs are a welcome addition. Tetris 2 for the Super Nintendo is definitely different. This one feels a lot less like a Tetris sequel and more of a clone of Dr. Mario. Honestly, I wouldn't even call it a clone. It's similar, yes, but in my opinion, it's harder. The game has a couple of different modes too. You've got Marathon, where you just keep playing until you eventually lose. Puzzle, where you have a set amount of pieces and you're trying to drop them in the perfect spot to solve the board. And Versus, where you play Marathon, but against an opponent. With the first person to lose, well, losing. And playing through it even gets you some cutscenes. Yeah, imagine that. Tetris with cutscenes. However, no matter how hard I try, I cannot win at Versus mode. I feel like that's going to be a theme. Tetris Battle Gaiden for the Super Famicom is pretty much only a Versus mode. Maybe there's others, but alas, I do not know how to read Japanese. From what I can understand, there appears to be a story mode where you pick a character and fight your way through all the other characters. It's like a puzzle version of Street Fighter 2, but not Puzzle Fighter 2. Man, just a game ago I couldn't imagine Tetris having cutscenes, but now Tetris has a whole story mode one game later? Sure makes you think. Like I said, this game is pretty much just nothing but versus. You have to beat all the computer opponents to win, which is way easier said than done. Each character has their own ability that does various things, all of which just shit on me and fill my matrix up with more blocks. I can't even figure out how to do mine because I can't read any of this. Not having luck against this guy, so let's try facing the shaman. Okay, so it looks like he's praying and... what the hell? The praying shaman just summoned a dude in a poncho with maracas and filled my board with bullshit? The pieces are almost as random as whatever the fuck I just witnessed. Totally fair and makes sense. I'm just gonna hit every single button in combination until I figure out how to do my ability. Yes! I don't know what I hit, but it looks like it's working. What? How did my own ability fuck me over? Fuck this game, I'm moving on. Tetris Attack is the Super Mario Bros. 2 of the Tetris franchise. It's also Yoshi themed, so that's incredibly fitting. The original Japanese game is called Panel de Pon, but I guess to guarantee sales they just slapped both Tetris and Mario characters onto the cover. Seems like a winning strategy. The game is so much simpler than any other puzzle game that I've played in my life. You literally just switch 2 blocks around until you get 3 to 5 of the same color in a row, making those blocks disappear. The blocks do ascend in this game rather than descend, so that's another break from the traditional Tetris formula. This game continues the trend of increasing the number of game modes as well. You have Endless, which is the same thing as Marathon, a puzzle mode where you're trying to clear the board in a set amount of moves, versus against another player or computer, Time where you're trying to get as many points as possible in the time limit, and Stages, which functions as the game's story mode. The change up in the Stages mode is that you have to keep clearing blocks as they rise up, and then eventually clear all the blocks above a certain line. I like pushing the blocks into holes by swapping them with nothing. Makes the game even easier. This one didn't make me want to have an aneurysm like the last one, so I'll take this as a win. Okay, I'm done. Let me go now.
You will keep playing unless you want the blocks to make you disappear.
That's honestly fine. Nothing you could do, death included, could be worse than making me play this many Tetris games.
Oh yeah? How about this?
What is this?
No.
No! Not a Virtual Boy game! Oh, how'd you even get this to play on a gaming headset?
Never mind that. Play. Now.
The first thing I noticed when playing this game is that my eyes are hurting like nobody's business. Seriously, this is such an immense strain just to play the fucking game. I haven't even started playing. There are 3 overall modes to choose from, with subcategories to select as well. We'll start with 3D Tetris, and man, this is so hard for me to get my head around. The blocks are falling into a 3D matrix, but I can't exactly tell the depth just from looking at it, so it's all very confusing. There's a guide on the right hand side of the screen, but I'm not certain looking at it from a 2D perspective is giving me any help whatsoever. On top of that, the longer I look at this, the more my eyes hurt, so I apologize to those of you viewing this if it strains your eyes too. Assuming I get out of this alive and can upload this lecture. At this point, I'm not worried about Ilya killing me. This shit might just do the trick. There's an endless mode where you just play until you lose. It's like a regular Tetris in that sense, but when you mess up, you lose a level of depth to the 3D matrix. I'm not even sure how you mess up, but I certainly have a lot. There's also a mode where you have to clear a certain amount of blocks or matrices or something that I still just can't get my head around. It'd be easier to focus on how to play the game if the game wasn't giving me a fucking headache. Center fill has 3 options to select and play, but the biggest change is that the pieces put in the center of the matrices just sort of disappear. Yeah, I'm not sure how or why that is, but I'm somehow getting points in this mode, so I'll take it. Also, you don't get points for putting blocks in the center. You get them for what looks to be lining up blocks around the center, which means the name doesn't make any sense. Puzzle mode just has 1 option, and the goal is to fill out the puzzle with the blocks. Seems self-explanatory. I literally put 2 blocks down. How did I already lose? That's it. I take it back. I will play every version of every Tetris game to ever exist before I ever pick this up again.
Good, because that's exactly what you'll be doing.
While all the Tetris games we've played so far have been developed primarily for either a computer or a home/portable console, there were Tetris games made primarily for the arcade, such as the Tetris Plus games. Yep, this certainly is Tetris. Both Tetris Plus and Tetris Plus 2 have a marathon mode, which I'm not explaining again, as well as a story mode. Archaeologists are looking for treasure, and you gotta help them out by clearing some lines. Basically, the goal in both games is to get the archaeologist to the bottom of the screen. If you do, he moves on to the next stage and gets a treasure. But if you don't, he gets squished to death by spikes that are coming down from the top.
Pretty brutal. Sure hope that doesn't happen to me.
Anyway, the storyline of 2 is pretty much the same as 1, except this time there are branching paths for the stages, so you choose which ones you want to play.
Ilya, full disrespect. I feel like I'm playing the same game over and over again unless there's some dumbass gimmick added. When do I get to stop? You stop when I say you get to stop. Now you will play Nintendo 64 games. There were quite a few. Great.
I guess we'll pop in Tetris Sphere and see what this is all about. Did the game just scream at me? Well, this is a horror show so far. It can't get any worse, right? Okay, what is this? This certainly isn't Tetris, but it's definitely on a sphere. What else can I say about it? I don't know, man. This game gives me nothing special to work with, just an overall odd concept. It looks like you free some entity when you complete the sphere. Hey, maybe I'm trapped in this game and someone will come along and free me. Not likely, though. Now for Tetris 64, where your goal is to clear 64 lines of Tetris. That'd be pretty funny, I think. Honestly, come to think of it, I don't know if any game with a tagline 64, at least on the N64, did anything with a number besides just announce the bits. Could you imagine if there were 64 stars to collect in Super Mario? Probably be a much shorter game. Anyways, you'll never believe this, but it's just Tetris again. A-type is marathon mode, but the picture in the background changes with the level. B-type is a clear certain amount of lines, and C-type makes the addition of random lines being added from the bottom as you progress. Nothing particularly special about this version, and there's no incorporation of a three-dimensional field, so I honestly don't know why the 64 tag was even included. Will this game be any different if it was 8 or 16 bits? Probably not. Never fear though, the new Tetris is here. What's so new about it? Well, it adds the ghost line so you can see where your piece will land? Another game could have added it prior though. I honestly haven't been paying attention. Kinda fending for my life here. Besides that, it's, and you guessed it, Tetris. There's the regular modes, and it also adds sprint mode where you're trying to clear as many lines as possible in a set amount of time. And ultra mode, which didn't seem to have anything different about it. There are some unlockables you get for clearing thousands upon thousands of lines, so I guess that's the campaign?
You have me absolutely flabbergasted if you think I'm going to clear 50,000 lines of Tetris just to see some 64-bit Russian bullshit.
You've heard of the new Tetris, but what about the next Tetris? Yeah, this was released around the same time, just this one was released for PlayStation. The mini screen just says Tetris. A lot. Like, a lot. That's the soundtrack. Just the word Tetris, over and over again. Oh, please God, end my suffering. The game has classic Tetris, which at this point I don't expect any future iterations to not have, as well as a game mode called The Next Tetris. What's so futuristic and innovative about The Next Tetris? You clear the bottom line. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Back to the N64, we have one more game to cover, Disney's Magical Tetris Challenge. Now, this one actually does have some innovations. It brings us back to the versus aspect of Tetris with whichever character you pick going through their own story. Yeah, multiple branching stories in a Tetris game. I couldn't believe it myself. In Mickey's story, Pete shows up, mind controls Minnie, and convinces him to marry her. So Mickey has to fight his friends, like Goofy, to get to Pete. Makes total sense. Classic Tetris. One of the actual innovations to the gameplay was the incorporation of pieces that had 5 or more blocks. This actually flips what you know about the game and makes it much more challenging. Honestly, this is probably the most welcome addition of the N64 games in my opinion.
Now it is time to speed things up. Speed things up? Like, finish this quickly so that I can leave before the rest of the Tetraminos appear? No. I mean, speed things up to speeds you could never hope to complete, to levels too fast for you to comprehend, with the Tetris, the Grandmaster series.
You're a madman!
A madman!
Now that I've gained my composure, here's the Tetris, the Grandmaster games. Now this is really getting into the realm of the professionals. Released in Japan as an arcade cabinet, Tetris the Grandmaster comes off as your normal game of Tetris, except that with every Tetramino dropped, the level goes up. Very quickly, you find yourself in levels of 100 plus, dealing with Tetraminos dropping at incredibly fast speeds. If you can get to level 999, the game plays the end credits, which you still have to play over. At the end of the game, whether you lose or make it through the credits, you are awarded a rank based off the skill and points you displayed throughout the game. Tetris, the Absolute, the Grandmaster 2, what an incredible name by the way, is very similar to Grandmaster 1. Except, now you can also play against another player. Not too much was changed, however, in Tetris the Grandmaster 3 Terror Instinct, there were some real changes, like different difficulty modes. On the regular, and I use that term lightly, Master Mode, there is some kind of Grandmaster promotional exam which I don't quite understand and assume it's the regular mode you get from Grandmaster 1 and 2, where you're trying to achieve the highest rank. On top of that, there is the Shirase difficulty mode, where the max level goes past the normal measures and ends at level 1300. These are speeds that I myself could never hope to capture. There was also a console release of Tetris the Grandmaster Ace on Xbox 360 in Japan, but the only big difference I noticed is that it comes off as easier and now has a time limit. I'm so tired. I don't think that I can keep going. After that round of games, I have literally no energy left.
Oh, don't worry, comrade. I've got just the thing for you.
No, no, no! Ah! Ah! Ow! No. No. Anything but G Fuel!
It's so hot! Oh god!
Our next game is Tetris Worlds for the PlayStation 2. The game starts with some weird Tetris evolution where the first block walks on land, and then it transitions to the world where the Tetris blocks originate about to go through a cataclysm because their sun is going to explode. That's some high stakes kind of shit right there. The goal is to help the Tetris blocks find a new home by opening a portal at various teleportation gates, which of course requires you to play Tetris some more. The first thing you'll notice when playing the actual game is there's some really creepy lady whispering in your ear the whole time, announcing when you clear a line and counting down. Seriously, I've seen and heard enough creepy shit for one day. I could really do without this. Oh shit, she's counting down from 10. What's gonna happen?
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Overtime.
Nothing happens. Classic. Speaking of classic, most of the variations are pretty much just regular Tetris. I expect nothing and I'm still disappointed. However, there are a couple of cool modes here like Sticky Tetris, Fusion Tetris, and Sticky is where you have to clear the bottom row, Fusion has you connect blocks to an atomic block, and Hotline has you complete lines on specific, well, lines of the Matrix. This game offers more than some, but like most of the Tetris sequels, it's way too similar to stand on its own. Now Tetris Elements might be where the shift happens of making Tetris games with actual decent variation. It starts out with a cutscene making it look like a shitty Avatar The Last Airbender game, but really, it offers a lot of variety with a spin on each version that's complemented by an element. Although, it's odd that there's a massive wall of text just to tell you a different way to play Tetris. Whatever, let's get to the game modes. Stratosphere has green meteors that fall from the sky, creating more blocks, as well as red and blue meteors that either destroy what they touch or destroy every block in their path. Earthquake occasionally shakes the screen and scrambles where the current layout of blocks are. Ice has icicles that fall from the top and can hit your piece, forcing it to land right where it was, as well as a big icicle that will create an entirely new line. Fire allows blocks to just straight up explode if you have them start coming down fast enough. Tempest has a tornado that swings by and flips the board, essentially making you play and manage two different matrices. Classic is just regular ass Tetris, but with so many different modes in this one, I'll excuse it this time. Oh no, come on, please don't tell me. How many are left?
3 more until you meet your end.
Fuck you, Tetris Slav! What are you even doing this for? What's your end goal?
Well, you see, when I was a small boy in my village in Russia, we were in
Oh
Russia,
my god, he's
and the
actually
village was
monologuing.
very small.
I literally just wanted a one-sentence answer.
And then,
Okay,
one
whatever.
day,
Let's just get on to the
set
next
fire.
game. Tetris Splash was developed for the Xbox Live Arcade, and it's just Tetris underwater. Not much to say here, except that the take on the soundtrack is pretty relaxing. Well, as relaxing as it can get for a guy being held hostage by some Russian dude and forced to play these games. Tetris Party and Tetris Party Deluxe were both games on the Wii that offered several different modes in which to play Tetris. The main difference being that Tetris Party was a WiiWare game and Tetris Party Deluxe was an actual release disc. There's computer battle where you face off with an AI, same as any other versus mode from past games. Field Climber is a new addition that focuses on dropping Tetraminos in more of a staircase pattern to help this little dude get to the top of the screen. Shadow is where you use Tetraminos to fill out the pattern of the picture within the matrix. And Stage Racer, the board continues to go down while you're trying to navigate a Tetramino all the way to the bottom of the screen. Beginner's Tetris is Tetris with much bigger blocks, and Balance Board mode is where you use the Wii Fit board to drop Tetris pieces. Unfortunately, I don't own one, and if I did, it probably would be at home instead of in this fucking dungeon. Tetris Axis is a 3DS game that has many of the same modes as Tetris Party. The game is split into 3 sets of modes: Featured, Party, and AR. The featured games are, for one, your typical Tetris Marathon, as well as a gauntlet of verses against several different characters. It introduces the Fever mode, which puts you in a narrow matrix and forces you to get as many points as you can in a short amount of time. Now for the AR mode, which I can't play because I don't have some dumb card. Horseshit.
And that was the day my grandmother died. Oh! New Tetramino.
Ow! Dude, just stop! I'm almost done with the Tetris games anyway, so you can quit hitting me. Well, could be worse. Thankfully, you're not making me play like Puyo Puyo or something. No. No, no, no! Okay, great. Have you ever played Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine? What about Kirby's Avalanche? That's Puyo Puyo. You line up 4 of the same color of Puyo and they disappear. The reason that is at all relevant is because there were 2 crossover games with Tetris. Puyo Puyo Tetris 1 and 2. In Puyo Puyo Tetris, there is in fact a story mode, which consists of Puyo Puyo players getting teleported to different places. The story isn't so important as much as the gameplay, which is a versus mode that for the most part has one side playing Tetris and the other side playing Puyo Puyo. However, there is a fusion mode where Puyo Puyo blobs and Tetris blocks are falling into the same exact matrix. The mode is very difficult to get the hang of. There's also Swap, which has you play both a Puyo Puyo matrix and a Tetris matrix, and it just swaps between them. Party mode has you pick which game you want to play, and the winner is determined by who gets the most points. Big Bang mode is where you try to solve preset Tetramino or Puyo Puyo patterns quickly to beat your opponent. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 has some updates, but it's mostly the same game besides a skill battle mode that lets you have a team that do different boosts and bonuses, while also containing an HP bar for your matrix rather than the deciding factor being who fails first. As for the story, it's also similar. The worlds of Puyo Puyo and Tetris are merging again, but the characters from the first game don't remember each other. Also, what is up with Ringo? This chick really hates peace, apparently.
Puyo Puyo doesn't get a lot of love, so I'm grateful to you for covering it. For that, I will not hit you with this new Tetramino.
Really? Wow, that's awfully generous of you.
Just kidding. Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
home stretch. Here we go.
Tetris Ultimate was released for the 30th anniversary of Tetris, and it is a massive disappointment. Why is it so disappointing? Because for the 30th time, it's just fucking Tetris! Nothing worthwhile was added to this game, as most of the modes and playstyles were already introduced in earlier titles. Tetris 99, which feels like the 99th Tetris game I've covered today, is a lot more interesting. In the theme of a Battle Royale style game, 99 players battle for Tetris supremacy. When you clear lines, you send obstacles in the form of extra lines from the bottom up to your opponents. You win by being the last Tetris player standing, which I'm never going to be. This experience has honestly ruined Tetris for me, and at this point, I heavily welcome the sweet embrace of death.
There's only one game left, and then my soul can be at peace. Let's play Tetris Effect.
Okay, so this is pretty nice and interesting. You clear 36 lines to advance to the next stage, but besides that, it's Tetris all over again. However, there's something about the views and the music that honestly gives me a sense of hope. This game is really, really good. It isn't just Tetris, it's a full-on stimulation of all my senses. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Tetris games don't need to be some big spin on the formula or new modes and stages to be fun. Maybe it's just the way that we experience Tetris that matters. I think if this is the last game I ever play, I can make peace with that.
But I don't want it to end. I want to see more of this game, of this genre, of this world. I can't lose everything here. It's too late for that, comrade. The final Tetramino is here, and with this, you meet your end. Wait! This game has the capability for VR. And if you were willing to make me play the Virtual Boy games, you should want me to play this in VR as well so that I could give it a full-on review. Doesn't that make sense? You make a fine point. Okay. I will grant you this. Your final wish. You will experience the full fury of Tetris. Take this! From Russia with fun, motherfucker! Well, folks, that's Tetris. I guess the moral of the story is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And also, don't let a Russian renegade kidnap you and then force you to play a game from the 80s over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to have emotional scars after this. So thank you for watching, and remember to catch me next time right here on VG 101. Now, how do I get out of here? Oh, man. Seriously. How did he move that thing with me on it?